What is going on YouTube? Subscribe to the fucking channel. Today, I'm going to be talking about what's next for every single 2023 NBA playoff team in the Eastern Conference after they've been eliminated from the playoffs. And where do they kind of go from here? What's next? How can they improve their team and so on and so forth? So look, like I said, if you enjoy the video, like, subscribe. I'm trying to get to 700 subs, so if you do subscribe, I will greatly appreciate it. But look, first things first, let's get right into it. The Atlanta Hawks, man. I think, firstly, they need to trade John Collins' ass, bro. This guy has gone from a promising all-star talent, averaging 20 and 10 to a flat-out scrub. I think he averaged like 11 points and 4 rebounds in the playoffs. He's getting worse every single season, and his trade value is at an all-time low. And this has been the story the past 2 or 3 years, you know. You think he's going to rebuild it so you can dump him later on? It just doesn't happen. It keeps getting worse and worse. But with that being said, he's still only 25 years of age. And look, like I said, he showed that all-star talent for a reason to begin with. And I do think there's going to be a team out there who's willing to take a gamble on him. You probably have to dump off a few assets to get rid of him because, let's be real, he's getting paid a shit ton of money to not do anything. But I think in order for the Hawks to actually take that next step in the playoffs, they got to get rid of him. Secondly, they got to add a 3-and-D wing, man. And I think the best avenue to doing so is trading John Collins, moving DeAndre Hunter to the 4, and you get a pure 3-and-D wing at that starting small forward spot. Look, some names I've got on top of my head. You know, you can get Royce O'Neal possibly if he's made available, Josh Richardson, Reggie Bullock, those kind of plays. You're not going to get an elite 3-and-D wing like an OG Anunoby, but you can probably get someone who's an upgrade. Or you can move Saddiq Bey up to the 3, start him alongside Hunter, and you got a bit of switchability there as well. So I've got acquiring a 3-and-D wing. And then lastly, I think you give Quinn Snyder a full season, just let the man cook, bro. Like, I'm someone who's pretty high on Quinn Snyder. I do think he's a pretty good coach. And I do think that it was pretty unfair for him to just be thrown in the middle of the season and then he didn't really have anything to work with. Like, the Hawks were already trash at that point, right? And so I think you give him a full offseason to work with, you dump off John Collins, you get a 3-and-D wing, and I think this Hawks team can be pretty dangerous, man. So that's what I've got for the Atlanta Hawks. Next up, the Boston Celtics. Number 1, you got to get Jaylen Brown some ball hog gloves, man. If you know, you know. Nah, but I'm just kidding. Look, firstly, yeah, look, I mean, that is one thing. Jaylen Brown's going to improve his handles, plain and simple. But let's be real. It's been 7 years into his career. He hasn't really developed it that much. I think this is as good as it's going to get. If he improves it, great. Then, you know, I'm surprised, but I'm not going to bet on it or anything. So, look, firstly, you got to bolster the coaching staff surrounding Joe Mazzulla. Look, I think I was someone that was very critical of Joe Mazzulla. I thought he should have gotten fired, but after thinking about it a bit more, you know, he was put in a shit situation by Brad Stevens. Basically, Ime Udoka was too horny. He got bounced off. And then all these assistant coaches that were Ime's guys were now reporting to a 34-year-old Joe Mazzulla who had no head coaching experience, pretty much commanded no respect in the league. And I think that might have caused some issues in the locker room because these assistant coaches might have egos as well, right? And now that 3 of these Boston coaches are on the way out to join Ime Udoka in Houston, Brad Stevens has to rebuild that coaching staff. And he's done a great job so far. He signed Sam Cassell. I think that's an excellent start for a top assistant coach. If you can round that coaching staff off with a few more other reputable guys, whether it's guys, you know, in head coaching gigs in the college looking to break into the NBA, whatever it may be, I think the Celtics are in a pretty good position. So bolster that staff, and I think next, you got to find that Al Horford replacement, man. Like, Al Horford is 37 years of age, and look, besides being a bit useful in defense against like Joel Embiid, for example, he looked very washed these playoffs. And like, obviously, it's only just one playoff, but you can't look and tell me that next year he's going to come back a year older and somewhat improve on this year's playoff performance. He already peaked as a 3-point shooter. He was like top 2 or 3 in the league in 3-point percentage. He's not going to get much better. He's only going to get older. And so if you're the Celtics, it's time to move Big Al, let him play like 20, 25 minutes off the bench. You got to find a replacement for him. Look, Robert Williams, he's promising. Obviously, he's a center, and he's got a lot of injury issues of his own. Grant Williams, probably better suited off coming off the bench at this stage of his career. And so you got to find an answer somehow because a 37, 38-year-old Al Horford is not it. And a replacement that can kind of replace him, they don't grow on trees either. It's a very hard player to find. So you got to try and find somebody in the meantime. Or do you move Jason Tatum up to the 4, get another switchable wing? I don't know. But you got to find an answer there because Rob Williams is not it permanently, and neither is Grant Williams right now. So that's what I got for the Celtics. Next up, the Brooklyn Nets. Number 1, re-sign Cam Johnson, man. This has to be the number 1 priority for the Nets this offseason. They need to focus on building around that core of Bridges, Johnson, and Claxton, period. So number 1, bring him back. Next, I think they should use next season kind of as like a growing year or like a transition type year. The Nets, they do have like a boatload of assets to make a big splash, obviously from the KD and Kyrie trades. But what's holding them back is that motherfucker Ben Simmons, bro. He's holding back the team big time with his enormous contract, and wouldn't even know what the go with him is. Like, is he going to play? Is he not going to play? He keeps uploading photos on Instagram of him training, but he doesn't do shit on the court. Fuck, I don't know, man. So I think the best step for the Nets is to just hold back, at least for now. Use the next season to kind of consolidate assets, grow your chemistry, and then go in all after, whether it's to use those assets to trade for a star, for example. Now, I do also think that they should sell high on Cam Thomas. I don't think he's the type of player that kind of fits alongside the Bridges, Johnson, and Claxton trio, because he's too ball dominant. The guy doesn't know how to pass, basically. Obviously, he's very talented, and he dropped multiple 40-point games this season, so you got to trade him whilst his value is at an all-time high. And then you can, like I said, you can probably get a few assets, flip that next season for a bigger trade, right? And then, in terms of some of the vets they have, I would also look at trading guys like Dinwiddie, who I believe is extension eligible, Joe Harris, Royce O'Neal, Patty Mills. Get whatever you can from them, dump off their contracts, and like I said, retool, repurpose for that next season. But I would think Dorian Finney-Smith, he is someone that I would keep because he isn't too old, and of all the players I just listed, he's probably the best one there, and is probably the most valuable guy that a lot of playoff teams can use. So I would hold on to him for now, so that when you do make a big splash, you got that plug-and-play 3-and-D type of guy that any team can use, really. So that's what I got for the Nets. Next up, the Cleveland Cavaliers. First up, get a legit 3-and-D wing, starting small forward. Look, the Garland, Mitchell, Mobley, Allen core, they're here to stay. But for the Cavs to really propel themselves into that next tier of like championship contending teams, you need a wing. Every single serious team has legit 3-and-D wings or legit two-way wings, whatever you want to call it. And the Cavs just don't have that right now. LeVert, look, he shot 39% from three, and his defense has improved, so it's the closest thing they got. But to me, he's a little too ball dominant, and he's better suited as a six-man type of guy. I just don't see him as a starting small forward on a championship team. Isaac Okoro, great defender. At 6'5", he's a little undersized when you ask him to guard like, the Tatums, LeBrons, KDs of the world. And offensively, he's very limited outside of hoping he hits an open 3 or 2, right? Cedi Osman, streaky shooter. He'll go 6 of 6 or 0 of 6. There's no in between. So if you're the Cavs, you got to look at finding a 3-and-D wing, right? Like, for example, the Dorian Finney-Smiths, the Royce O'Neals, the Reggie Bullocks, Josh Richardson. Those kind of guys are all great options. Get yourself a 3-and-D wing. Next up, they got to upgrade the bench, man. Caris LeVert, who was the Cavs' best bench player, he's set to become an unrestricted free agent right now. So the Cavs are going to need to upgrade what's already a very thin bench to begin with. I think bringing LeVert back is the number one priority for the Cavs, because without him, you're kind of fucked, man. And there's really not many better options via trade if you do want to sign and trade him. In addition to that, the Cavs need to upgrade their backup point guard and center spots, because Ricky Rubio doesn't look that great, and nor does Robin Lopez, and they're the backup point guard and center. Obviously, Naz Reid is someone who's like a dream for the Cavs. He'll fit them like a glove, given his offensive prowess and ability to stretch the floor at that either 4 or 5 position. And then you got Mobley and Allen to kind of cover up for his defensive shortcomings. But with that being said, he's everyone's fucking dream target. Christian Wood, that's an interesting target as well. I think he's a bit undervalued, bit under the radar. Teams are probably passing on him, so he's someone I would look at as well. But whatever it is, you got to upgrade that backup point guard and center spot. That's what I've got for the Cavs. Next up, the Milwaukee Bucks. First off, re-sign Khris Middleton and re-sign Brook Lopez at all costs. Their championship window is now. Drew Holiday, Khris Middleton, and Brook Lopez, they're all over the age of 30. Lopez is actually going to turn 36 years of age next season, and he just had the best season of his career. He's going to get paid. Letting either Middleton or Lopez walk pretty much guarantees that the Bucks are going to be worse next season. They're not going to get anyone better than them in return, so you have to retain both of those guys and go all in. Next, you got to upgrade the bench, especially at that wing position, I think. I think that the Bucks, like this season, they signed Joe Ingles to that MLE mid-level exception deal. He pretty much I feel like he outperformed his contract and expectations, given that it was coming off a torn ACL. But with that being said, they're going to have to hit another home run with that MLE, just because you got Ingles hitting free agency. You also got Crowder and Wes Matthews. They're all hitting free agency, and those are probably your 3 best wing options behind Khris Middleton that are more likely gone unless they want to come back for the veterans minimum, right? And so they got to get a switchable 3/4, like someone like a Khris Middleton archetype player, I suppose. Like if you put Joe Ingles shooting or Wes Matthews shooting in the body of Jay Crowder, that's kind of the ideal player they're looking for. But like I said before, everyone's after those type of guys as well, like the Finney Smiths, Richardsons, Bullocks, all those kind of guys. They need one of them. I don't know if they're going to be able to get one, but they need one. So that's what I've got for the Bucks. Look, for the New York Knicks, firstly, they got to move on from Julius Randle. I think that I'm not a Knicks fan, but I think I speak for Knicks fans when I say that they appreciate what Randle has done for the organization, but I think it's just time for both parties to move on, and it's best for both sides to move on. And you look at Randle and his deal, the Knicks are probably going to have to chuck in, a pick or two to get rid of him, but if they're serious about contending, they need to do it. Now, in one of my last videos, Karl-Anthony Towns is someone who I pointed out as potentially a replacement for Randle. I don't think it's going to happen, but if you're the Knicks, you got to be intrigued by that. Like, yes, both of them aren't very good playoff performers offensively. Both of them are pretty poor defenders, but Towns is a superior shooter, and that Jalen Brunson, Karl-Anthony Towns, pick and pop, it's got a bit of potential, man. And like right now, Karl-Anthony Towns, his value is at an all-time low as well, so why not take the risk if you're the Knicks? But with that being said, I don't think the Wolves will accept that trade anyway. And so look, secondly, they got to trade for either a second star or you got to get some more higher end starters on your team. And so RJ Barrett, look, he's 22 years of age. He's going to be 23 this year, I believe. I know he's copped his fair share of criticism, copped his fair share of shit. But honestly, he ended the season on a pretty high note, finishing pretty strong, especially in the postseason as well. And I actually think, unless you can get a clearly better player, I think you hold on to him because he's only going to get better. And he's locked in for a few more years as well. You got to think about that too. So unless you get like an OG Anunoby, someone owning Anunoby, okay? Someone who's a clear upgrade over Barrett, you keep RJ for now. Now, other than that, I think, you got to look for who's available in the trade market. It's very clear that Jalen Brunson is the guy you got to build around. So now you got to kind of put the right team alongside him. The Knicks do need more shooting. They do need more defense. Two of the most important things in today's NBA. Look, they're in a very good position though because they have a lot of assets with their young players. So I think the Knicks, they have the potential to get better and better, but it's just about the front office making the right moves because they certainly have the capability to do so. So that's what I've got for the Knicks. Look, the 76ers, they got to make a decision straight out. Do they run it back or do they blow it up? Now, in my previous videos, I've always predicted that the Harden Embiid duo would fuck up in the second round of playoffs, choke, get out, and then that playoff duo will get split. And that did hold true for quite a while of time, and it still might, because there's a lot of Harden to Houston rumors. I don't know if that's, Harden's management trying to push the 76ers to make some more moves, whatever it may be. It's been spoken about, right? But I think with the hiring of Nick Nurse, it shows that they want to win now. It's more likely that Harden's going to stay now that Nick Nurse is on board. But you still got to decide if you want to go all in, run it back with this current team, and hope that Nick Nurse is a shit ton better than Doc Rivers and is able to get you to compete for a championship, even though Harden and Tucker are going to be a year older. Or do you decide to blow it up? Because if you let Harden walk, you're fucked already. You're not going to get anyone better than him in return because Tobias Harris is eating up too much cap space as well. If you blow it up, trade Embiid, trade Harden, build around Maxey, I suppose. You just got to decide, like the 76ers, they've been a good but not great team for so many years now. Like, is this one last run? Is that what they have in them? Because it felt like it was that way this season. So is Nick Nurse going to make them a lot better with an aging Harden or Tucker? Fuck, I don't know, but they got to make a decision. If you guys do enjoy the video, like I said, subscribe to the fucking channel. I got a Western Conference edition coming up in the next few days. So yeah, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.